The details for what a Juan Soto contract would look like have been revealed, and spoiler alert, they're pretty hefty. So we'll break that down on this episode of Jay's Digest, as well as a former Blue Jay maybe coming back, a reunion that could have been. Well, let's not count our eggs before they hatch. We'll have that and much more coming up next. Welcome in, everybody, to Jay's Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And Nick, we're firmly entrenched into the offseason now. The World Series are over. You got the Los Angeles Dodgers as champions and thoroughly deserved champions as well. We'll talk about the money that they spent, whatever you want to do. They earned their way to a World Series. They were the best team in the regular season. They were the best team in the postseason. And if it's any incentive to other teams, look what happens when you spend money. Look what happens when you try to put the best possible talent on the field for your team. It usually ends up in deep playoff runs and sometimes even World Series in the Los Angeles Dodgers case. But we're going to talk about a guy that we're going to talk about a lot this offseason, Juan Soto, and a former Blue Jay who we've all been clamoring for. We all want him to come back, but maybe it's not really written in the stars like we thought it would be. Nick, what's going on here? Are we on the Soto train? Are we on the Teoscar Hernandez train? Are we on any train that the Blue Jays could get themselves on? This offseason is going to be wild.
Yeah, I'm on the Soto train. I'm just going to entrench myself back into it. I know you're taking the more passive approach, but a new report dropped revealing details about the amount he's going to be looking to make, as well as an interesting tidbit from Jeff Passan regarding the Blue Jays' interest in Juan Soto. So let's just dive right into it. Now, we're at the beginning stages of the Juan Soto rumors, so there hasn't been full concrete reports yet, but Jeff Passan was on the Blair and Barker show, and they were discussing Juan Soto, and he said he thinks that the Soto would be serious about joining the Blue Jays. So, Peter, before we get into some of the new details about the contract, seems like again on ESPN Jeff Pass or on Blair and Barker show, ESPN's Jeff Passan, he basically just said he's curious about how serious the Blue Jays are about Soto because I think Soto would be serious about them, which is very interesting and fuel up the speculation because this is it's going to be the start of a very long next month or two until he signs. But it's a good sign. This is kind of how the Shohei Ohtani stuff started. It started with rumors here and there. We got Bob Nightingale. We had John Heyman. Whether you want to believe those guys or not is fully up to you. But then you also had guys like Jeff Passan saying he believes Juan Soto will be interested in the Blue Jays, and probably because they're willing, if they're willing, to offer him 6 to 700 million, like we're about to explore.
Yeah, well, the difference between this and the Shohei stuff is that Shohei offered great attractiveness off the field, which is maybe not something that Juan Soto could offer to the same degree. I'm not saying Soto isn't a marketable player, but let's take a look at the game 5 between the San Diego Padres and the Los Angeles Dodgers. 45% of Japan was watching at 9 a.m. in the morning. Now, I understand that's their star athlete, but that's a pretty heavily populated country, and for about half of them to wake up and watch their superstar in action, that's the kind of impact that Shohei has off the field. So I think that's why the Blue Jays were willing to go to incredible lengths to go out and acquire Shohei Ohtani. It's because of that off-field marketability that he has. Now, Juan Soto, pound for pound, player for player, as hitters, I think Juan Soto is really comparable. He truly is comparable to Shohei, but Shohei's going to be on the mound next year, so he's absolutely worth that 700 million just for what he could do on the field. And then you add on to that the stuff that comes off the field with Shohei. Now, the Blue Jays, owned by a telecommunications company, they're looking at all of that stuff. They're looking at all of the off the field stuff that they can gain from Shohei, and that's why they're all in on this. Are they going to feel that same way about Juan Soto? Because you're just pretty much acquiring a player if you're getting Juan Soto. It's great. He's going to sell jerseys for you. He's going to put butts in the seats at the Rogers Center. There's no doubt. But I don't know if I don't know if 45% of Japan is waking up to watch him, or I don't know if 45% of the Dominican Republic is going to watch Juan Soto when there are so many other star Dominican players. But I will say this, that he's already got a ring, Nick. He's already got a World Series championship to cling to. So maybe he's not looking to go to the best possible team. Maybe he's looking to get the most amount of money, and the Blue Jays are going to have the space to do it. Now it's just whether or not they're going to go out there and want to shell out that amount of cash for Juan Soto, who is nowhere near as marketable as Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, and the question is what the Blue Jays front office is going to want to do about it, because ultimately at this point they've been lackluster for the past few years, especially last year. If they really want to win their fans over, obviously getting a guy like Juan Soto would be the move. And surrounding Juan Soto, we do have an update here. You can see this in the middle. According to John Heyman, and this released yesterday, I believe, Soto is seeking $700 million in free agency and not deferred money like Ohtani got last season. And Jeff Passan in the same interview alluded that it could drop down to $600 million. But the question is, does Soto's performance justify the contract? He's 26 years old. We know he's an unreal player. Probably the best hitter in baseball, but top three hitter in baseball, depending on who you want to be a fan of. But Peter, $700 million is what Heyman said. Passan said it could drop down to $600 million. He would play the outfield. We don't even have to talk about how he'd fit on this Blue Jays team. He'd fit like a glove, obviously. But the question is this something the Toronto Blue Jays are serious about at that price range of 600 to $700 million? That's the question. It seems like reports are saying they will be, but I'm assuming we'll get some better ideas over the coming weeks.
It's a lot of money. There's no doubt about that. And another way that you can look at it is that he's significantly younger than Shohei Ohtani as well. So at 26 years old, Shohei was 30 when he signed that deal. And Shohei, let's be honest, a lot more grueling the way that he plays. Stealing bases, going to be on the mound again next year. So there's a lot more wear and tear going on with Shohei's body. Whereas Juan Soto, you could stick him in left field for the next 10 years, and you know that bat is going to be MVP caliber. So I think that in itself is a reason why teams should be all over this, even if it's 600, 700 million. He's 26 years old. He's an MVP candidate. He's one of the best players in baseball. You don't really overthink these kinds of things. He's a superstar hitter. Maybe he's not the all-around player that Shohei is, but he is a superstar in his own right. So, in my opinion, definitely worth the money. I just don't know if front offices view him in the same light. For me personally, I don't know how you justify giving him more money or the same money as Shohei Ohtani because he just doesn't have that same level of impact. I feel like somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to go crazy and give him that 700 million. It might be the Jays. It might be the Jays, but is he worth Shohei money? In my opinion, no. But he is a great player, and you know exactly what you're getting out of him for the next decade plus, at least. So I understand it from a fiscal point of view, but Shohei money, not for me. But I'd still take him on my team, no doubt.
Yeah, and unlike Ohtani, Soto has a bit less injury concerns and maybe aging concerns in the sense of Soto has the best eye in baseball, and that's going to age very well as he gets older, even though, again, he's only 26 years old. He's still super young. So let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. Do you want to see Ohtani? I mean, obviously, we all want to see Ohtani in a Jays uniform, but do you want to see him get a $700 million? Soto, yeah, sorry. Soto. Do you want to see Soto get a $700 million contract? Ohtani, that ship has sailed. We're not going to go back there. But speaking of the Blue Jays in general here, Teoscar Hernandez pours cold water all over a Jays reunion. And Peter, we've both been on record saying we didn't think this was going to happen, but he made it pretty clear. He basically went out, and again, we know how good Teoscar is. He went out on a, right after an interview with the Dodgers media, basically said, I want to be with the Dodgers. If they'll have me back, I want to join the team again. Obviously, it's not fully in his control. It's up to his agent, the Dodgers, but he wants to return. So, poured cold water all over it. I didn't think a reunion was super likely anyways. I think they have other aspirations, whether that's Anthony Santander, whether that's some other corner outfielders. Alex Bregman's been a talk. It doesn't seem like Teoscar has any intention of leaving the Dodgers because they just won a World Series. I mean, it makes sense anyways.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'd love to have him back. He was a crucial part of helping them win the World Series, but maybe some other teams around Major League Baseball look at how impactful he was during the postseason run, and they give him more term than the Los Angeles Dodgers. Because, the Dodgers, they'd love to have him back, but I think they won the World Series pretty damn easily. Like it was a cakewalk for them. Their hardest series was against the Padres, which obviously they were facing elimination. But then when the time called for it, they hurled 23 straight shutout innings. So I think they're all right. I think they're going to be fine. And then you get Shohei back on the mound next year. I think they're even going to be better. So maybe Teoscar Hernandez, they view him as a luxury as opposed to a necessity going into next year. So that might open the window for some other teams to get back in. I think he's a more realistic option for the Blue Jays than Juan Soto is. And I'm sorry to pour cold water on the Soto train, but I just can't see a GM justifying giving Soto $700 million. It's hard for me. Like, I love the player. I really do. And you talked about it. He's got a ton of qualities that would age great. Like, he's not a pure power hitter. He's a contact hitter. He can get on base better than anybody in baseball. Like, there are so many traits that I look at and say this guy is a great player. But in terms of who I think is more likely, I think Teoscar is probably a more likely bet to come back to the Blue Jays than Soto is to actually sign with the Blue Jays. And I think if you give Teoscar 5 years, he's all yours because I can't see the Dodgers giving him a 5 year term. And it'd be tough for any team to give him 5 years because he is 31 years old and maybe not the greatest defender, not the greatest base runner, but he does one thing and he does it very well, and he hits the crap out of the ball, and that's what he did all postseason long. It's a big reason why the Dodgers are World Series champs.
That's what the Blue Jays need. And let's not forget, he also did that with the Blue Jays in the wild card game. Just unfortunately, that did not matter. But let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on all of that. Ultimately, it's going to be a very busy next couple of months and really probably the next couple of weeks because free agency has already gotten underway. A lot of crazy stuff's going on. So keep you up to date. So make sure to hit the subscribe button. We'll see you tomorrow.